Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Allison's Storyland. This is try number 3. Try number 1 was excerpts from a book that wasn't funny. Try number 2 was interrupted by the cats climbing on the countertop when they weren't supposed to. So this is try number 3. I would call it quits and say this is a sign not to do it today, but I've already put my makeup on, so here we go. Today's book that we're reading is Erma Bombeck's When You Look Like Your Passport Photo, It Is Time to Go Home. Today's wine is called Bitch. As you can see, I've already poured myself a glass because I need it. On the back, this is why I buy wine from the bottle. It says bitch about 50 times roughly, and then goes and bitch some more. So without further ado, and before I have to start all over again, let's get started. And if you hear noise from my hand hitting the microphone, oh fucking well. Closing down the house. My husband said, "When you're leaving town, it is wise to tell as few people as possible." I hate it when he talks down to me. What does he think I am, stupid? The only people I've told we were leaving town were Tim, our paper boy, who had to tell his branch manager and his sub, Ralph, our postman, who is not only going to hold our mail, but offered to put a note on the post office for someone to mow our yard, Helen, who has our house key, my aerobics class and instructor, hairdresser, and dentist, the entire waiting room at the kennel where I made arrangements to board the dog, Marge at the bank, who made out our travelers' checks, Shirley at AAA, who routed our trip, the saleswoman who helped me with a new bathing suit, and the nice man who sold me a new piece of luggage, the water softener delivery man, whom I told about the key that I keep under the white rock at the end of the drive, the dry cleaners, in idle conversation, Sam, our druggist, who prescribed something for extreme exposure to sun and children, the Little League coach and the team, Evelyn, who was giving a birthday party for Steph and needed to know why we weren't coming, the editor Marjabelle Mix, who wanted a little paragraph for her weekly column. I may not be the most sophisticated traveler, but I know enough to sneak out of town. Canada. The first time we saw the 22-foot travel trailer, it was parked next to a carport with license plates that had not been renewed in 5 years. The for sale sign was fly-specked. Our entire family encircled it with excitement and wondered what kind of people could part with such a treasure. It was so compact, so self-contained. As my husband and the owner kicked the tires, his wife gave the kids and me a tour of the inside. The owner worked swiftly. She whipped off the sofa pillows and jammed them into the broom closet, flipped over the table into a bunk, and pulled down the bookshelves into a bunk. "That's amazing," I said. "How does one get into the bunk?" "You either walk on the face of the person sleeping on the table, or boost yourself up by putting your foot on the stove. Make sure the burners are off," she said dryly. "The kitchen seems rather small," I smiled. "Is there a refrigerator?" "Of course there's a refrigerator," she said. "Your handbag is covering it. To open the door, everyone but you goes outside, and when the door opens, you jump in the sink." I lingered as she forged ahead to the next section. "Here you have your private quarters." There's a twin bed on either side of the trailer, divided by a small aisle. "There's even a toilet," she added. "And the door is—" "There isn't a door. You won't use the toilet anyway, it smells. You'll note there's plenty of room under the bed to store your food, clothes, and blankets. Did you notice the cupboards in the walls? Just tell your husband not to make any sudden stops or everything flies open and you're looking at 3 days of mopping." I fingered a spray nozzle attached to a hose. "How nice. A vegetable brush in the shower." "That is the shower," she said crisply. I raced to the door, but it was too late. My husband was shaking hands with the former owner who held our check. As we hooked the trailer up to our car, the man pocketed the money and observed, "There goes a piece of our history, Mother. We'll miss it." Her eyes remained dry. "Like the Depression," she said. Traveling with 3 kids and dragging a trailer behind us wasn't the swiftest thing we ever did. In retrospect, I should have never have given birth to children. I should have never given birth to more children than we had car windows. In fact, after a week on the road with them and knowing what I know now, we should have bought a Porsche and rented the kids. Mom, where are we going again? The child riding the hard middle seat whined. I clutched the steering wheel and stared straight ahead. Ask your father. My husband put down the road map. Don't distract your mother. She's driving. We're going to see one of the most breathtaking phenomena in the world. The Bay of Fundy in New Brunswick, Canada. Tell us again why we're going there? Queried another bored voice. Because you are going to see something that few people have ever seen. A boar that comes surging up the... Oh, I'm gonna fuck this up. Petit Kodiak River. Petit Kodiak River? With a tidal wave that rises a staggering height of 11 feet at the rate of 8 to 11 feet an hour. Speaking of tidal waves, said the third voice from the back seat, I have to go. You should have gone before you left home, said their father. Dad, that was 4 hours ago. Mom, look for a place to stop. I told you before, don't bother your mother. She's got her hands full driving this rig, said my husband. He got that part right. Mom wasn't driving. She was frozen to the steering wheel like she was dragging a tank of nuclear waste material behind her. Every time I looked in the large mirrors on either door, I could see 3 miles of travel trailers behind me, and cars backed up to the United States border. For the last 500 miles, I had been following Ruby and Rusty of Kendallville, Kendallville, Indiana, in their RV, True Love. The thought of passing them it would have brought on premature menopause. So far, it hadn't been much of a vacation. Neither of us had anticipated the stress of hauling all this tonnage along the highway. That sweet little couple, Bonnie and Clyde, who sold us the travel trailer, never told us the joys of hitting downtown Detroit at 5 p.m., or the thrill of meeting another car on a bridge designed for a compact and a bicycle. And they certainly had never prepared us for the nightly ritual called parking your home on wheels for the night. Parking was an exercise for the entire family. My husband needed all the help he could get. He watched the 2 large mirrors mounted on either door of the car. One child near the rear wheels picked his nose, another at the opposite rear wheel threw tires at the squirrel. Threw rocks at the squirrels. He did not throw tires at the squirrels. He threw rocks. And a third child searched for a toilet. It was my job to stand off to one side and coordinate the operation. Turn your wheels that way, I shouted. Which way? I can't see you. That means nothing to me. Left! Turn them left! The trailer wheels or the car wheels left? Whichever makes your back wheels straighten out. Is that better? Right? Is that right as in okay? Or right as in turn right? I can't see you in all this rain, you know. That's because you didn't listen when I yelled stop. It isn't raining, you just hit the water connection. I'm pulling up again, and for God's sake give me better directions. Who are you waving at? Do you want me to go that way? I'm waving to our neighbors. Forget the neighbors till we get this parked, then you can get friendly. We'd better get friendly now. You backed into their tent. It was always a problem. One day in Quebec it was 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and we had not had lunch because we couldn't find a place to park the trailer. Something the size of a stadium. In desperation, my husband pulled alongside an abandoned railroad track. After lunch, it was my son's and my turn to put on the Barbie and Ken kitchen back in order. Put the Barbie and Ken kitchen back in order. The rest of the family took a walk. That's when we heard the train whistle. We both of us froze. It's funny when you think about your last seconds on Earth. You don't do any of the things you're supposed to do, like grab the picture albums or fall to your knees and confess your sins. All I could think about was those women on the Titanic who refused dessert the night the ship hit the iceberg because their clothes felt tight. As my son hummed "Nearer, My God, to Thee," I stuffed a Twinkie in my mouth as the train roared by. Every dish in the trailer crashed to the floor. My mind drifted back to the true love, and I wondered if Rusty and Ruby of Kendallville, Indiana, were having a good time. You get to know a lot about people you've been following for 500 miles. I knew they had a baby on board, had been to Williamsburg and the Knott's Berry Farm, and were members of the NRA. They liked open road and had a bumper sticker that said, "Cameras are the most honest people in the world." They also had a lock on their gas tank. Somehow, I knew that Rusty was driving and Ruby was reading a road map to her husband, who knew damn well he was going east, and if the sun was setting there, then God had made a mistake. Rusty was crabby because he couldn't find a holding station to empty the waste, and they couldn't use their self-contained toilet. Ruby worried about the brakes burning out when they went downhill. Her life had no meaning without a laundromat. The big saucepan she used to cook spaghetti in now held bait. Their kids ordered $10 dinners in restaurants and ate only the pickle. Their dog got carsick and rode with his head out the window, with his fanny in Ruby's face. My husband put down the road map again. "We've only made 10 miles today. No wonder. Look who you're following. It's Rusty and Ruby again. Pass him. He's only going 35 miles per hour." "We're going uphill," I said. "I don't have the power." As we descended, Rusty sped up to 65 miles per hour. He was incredible when you thought about it. He never stopped for the scenic views, never got gas. He had to have kidneys the size of basketballs. If he didn't pick it up, we would never get to the Bay of Fundy. So far, all I'm hearing is tell my husband no when he complains that we don't have a mini trailer again. All told, the trip would take us a month. It would take us through the breathtaking forests of Ontario, where our evenings would be spent watching bears eat food in the dump. We would inch our way through the narrow cobblestone streets of Quebec and wind along the St. Lawrence River around the snake-like coast of the Gaspé, Gasp with an E with a little dash above it. On Prince Edward Island, we would scour the is it scour or score, guys? Scour the beaches for clams, and in Nova Scotia we would sit on the grass and listen to bagpipe concerts. Well, that sounds fun. Well, some of us would. Others would carry water, build fires, hustle garbage, and spend most of our waking hours in the laundromat. Well, there it is. That's it. That's the one I was looking for. While the family was pretending that they were throwbacks from the wagon trail, I spent most of my time scrounging for quarters and watching my enzymes and bleach race their way to the dirt and grime in our underwear. The camping experience turned out to be as joyous as giving birth. Each day brought new challenges and tests of our tolerance for one another. But no matter how many flat tires we changed, how many repairs we needed for things that leaked and boiled over, no matter how many times I was tempted to make a necklace out of Valium and lick them all day long, same girl, same. Our goal always sustained us. We were going to see the great tidal bore the Bay of Fundy. No one in our neighborhood had ever seen anything like that. We arrived in the small town of Mon Moncton. And it's not even a difficult word to say, y'all. I'm just tipsy. I'm sorry. We arrived in the small town of Moncton in a New Brunswick in the early afternoon and drove our trailer to the banks of the. Okay, I can't say this word sober or nah. Petite Kodiak River. My husband turned his attention to his camera, mounting it carefully on a tripod and trying out different locations. I passed out stickers to the children with orders to stand back at a sail distance and hold Mommy's hand tightly lest they be sucked into the jaws of the powerful waters. Around 3:05 the buzz of anticipation by the spectators became hushed. There was an eerie silence as binoculars were trained on the flow of the rolling water in the distance. We strained our ears to hear the roar of the rushing waves we knew would come crashing against the shore. Our eyes searched to glimpse the wild wall of force that would leave us wet and breathless. At 3:10, a small trickle of brown water, barely visible, slowly edged its way down the river toward us with all the excitement of a stopped-up toilet. The five of us stared silently as the dribble lazily lapped the shore like a kitten with warm milk. I retained more water than this. The crowd was underwhelmed and stood like statues. It was a long time before anyone in our family smoked. About 5,000 miles, to be exact. In the fall, the kids used to trailer the kids used to travel In the fall, the kids used the travel trailer to entertain sleepovers. But for the most part, after the Canadian trip, it occupied a space between the garage er, it occupied a space between the garbage cans and the garage. The for sale sign in the rear window was aggressive as we got. One day that winter, a young serviceman and his wife knocked at the door and asked to see it. He was stationed nearby and needed a low-cost housing that they could park near the base. As our husbands kicked the tires, I showed the young woman inside the trailer. When I finished, she said quietly, "The sink seems rather small." I said, "Not really," I said. "It seats one comfortably." "How do you know that?" she asked. "Do you use the refrigerator a lot?" She hesitated. "Not a whole lot." "Then it isn't important." By the time she rushed to her husband's side, it was too late. The check was in my husband's hand. During the rest of that winter, I thought a lot about our first attempt at quality time. Was it possible that there were vacations where you didn't have to carry your own toilet paper and dispose of your own waste? Somewhere, was there a wonderland where nightlife was more than a ranger pricking his teeth with a matchbook cover and showing slides of the birth of a bog? Some of our friends have actually gone on trips where they didn't have to cut up everyone's meat or listen to a car radio that made their teeth swell. They visited a world where crying children belonged to someone else. And when they stretched out their arms in the back seat to relax, someone didn't put wads of chewing gum in their hands. That's a world I want to explore. I've been sold on two things this episode. Number one, don't buy a trailer. Number two, don't have children. Number three, well, okay, I lied. I'm sold on three things. Don't go to the Bay of Fundy. Probably gonna do the third one just to see what it's like because that sounded pretty fun to me. But it's fine. Alright, guys, today was a short episode, but thank you for listening. And next week or next filming, I'm gonna cover more of this wonderful beauty of a book. And we're just kind of going back and forth between everything. If y'all have any suggestions, any stories, anything you want me to try, hit me up, let me know, and I will see y'all later.